and we tried to keep them as long as we could. That's the way it was. The maids, you got enough to pay for the maid, you know. She only got $1, didn't she?
The maids were $1 an hour.
And so at some point I come along.
Yeah.
You came along.
Just before we got there.
Yeah.
That's right, I would have, because I was born in Monroe.
Yeah. And you lived in Cobb from November to February.
Also, Cobb was my first place where I lived.
Yeah.
Sure. Then we went to Milwaukee and got a brand new Cadillac, and we rented a trailer. No, we bought the trailer too, and we put everything we owned in the trailer, and off we went to Sarasota, pulling the trailer, and we got 5 miles to the gallon, pulling this heavy trailer.
We had a dog, Tico.
No, it wasn't Tico. It wasn't Tico.
I think so.
No, Tico was in Monona.
Well, Tippy died.
Oh, Tippy. Oh, cool. Maybe it was Tico then. Okay.
Tippy died in Monona.
Okay.
So
then you had the hotel for how long in Sarasota?
3 years.
Tough years?
Tough years. So we...
Was it a mistake?
Yeah. Because we couldn't make a living except in the winter time.
Yeah.
And so then we moved to Clinton, Iowa, where we were building, we helped build a 3-story, 53-unit motel with a pool and a restaurant.
we lived in an apartment with a little old lady upstairs, and you became a friend of the little old lady.
And her name was Mrs. Mays. No. What was the name of the little old lady?
Oh no.
We used to call her Mrs.
Used to call our old lady.
No.
So now
Well, I
we're.
kept in touch with her for a long time.
So now
afterwards.
I'm in. We are the 4 of us as a
You
family.
used to take your toys and go up the steps and show her your toys.
So we're in Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah.
For how long?
Long enough to build a motel.
Another travel lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, another guy and I did all the plumbing and heating for the whole thing, and the swimming pool and the restaurant. And then 3 days before it opened, we sold it, because meantime there's 3 more motels started to build, name brand.
When we
big
came
ones.
there was nothing except a hotel downtown. And here came Holiday Inn and Imperial 400. And
It didn't look so good then, so then we sold it.
what was that?
And we moved to Madison, Wisconsin.
So you sold it. Okay, so after selling the property, the travel lodge in Sarasota, you lost money at the end, or you broke even?
No, we broke even. They give us that same amount of money that we had down on Clinton, Iowa one. And we broke even on the Clinton,
We
Iowa.
were lucky to get out
Yeah.
with our investment.
So you were planning to stay in Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, that was right downtown. It was a beautiful location.
And there was no competition
Yeah.
when we picked it. But as soon as we got there, here they started coming.
So then you decided to go to Madison.
Yeah.
Why Madison?
Because he said, "Where would you like to live?" And I said, "I always liked Madison, Wisconsin."
So you got your turn for once.
Sure. She usually got her turn.
Never.
So you end up in Monona.
In Garden Circle. And there you took over.
And then, okay, so
You
you're
had the window, and you performed in front of the window.
you're in Garden Circle, which is now has been demolished.
Oh, you should see
And
what's going on.
and so Garden Circle is demolished. The back window used to face St. Stephen's Lutheran Church. There's a field there then, and you were stay-at-home mom, and
He started working at Schultz.
in the car business, selling cars.
Right.
Okay, so you've had your business has been plumbing, hardware, hotels. Why did you jump into cars? Why didn't you do one of the things that you already knew?
Because I wanted to know something different, something new. So I worked in the car business for a couple of years, and I had a chance to buy the dealership in Stoughton, so I bought the Buick Olds dealership, which became Sorensen Buick Olds. And neither one of my kids were very interested in it, so I sold it after 2 or 3 years.
Well, yes, when you sold it was 1971. I was all of 11 years old, so I don't think that I was a candidate for.
Well, you could have waited.
You didn't show much interest in selling
Oh,
cars.
Jay
I was
would have been
down there all the time,
Jay would have
messing
taken
around with
over
stuff.
at 12.
Thank God you didn't involve me in the car business.
You would have.
I probably would have been in
You'd
today's.
have been a good one. You'd have taken over the car business. So anyhow, we sold the car business, and then I guess I retired then.
Yeah, but how old were you when you retired?
Well, 47.
Okay.
47.
Okay, so okay, and
You're past already.
I know, but okay, so 47, you decide to retire. I mean, did you guys talk about this in terms of like, did you ask Dad, what in the world are you thinking about retiring at 47?
I did. He said he was going to help me. That's what I thought.
That's what he said.
I've been helping her ever since.
I'll help you. And
I'm
I've
her little
never,
helpmate.
I've never seen help since.
Let's go back in time, when dinosaurs walked the earth, and okay, so let's go back in time, and there's a story that you've told me, Mom, about Dad's father, Grandpa Loritz, visiting, was it Warren, and pestering your mom for fresh eggs.
Oh, yeah. He was out on the farm, and Mervyn Elmer lived on the farm.
This is out on the farm, not in this is not in Warren.
No.
This is on the farm.
And there was chickens running around, and he was sitting on the porch.
So wait, so is this during the war? Is this after the war?
Well,
Is
he
Dad
came
home?
out after we were married. He'd come out on the train a lot. Oh, even his brother, what was it, Uncle Ole would bring him out. But anyway, he was out on the farm, and he was sitting on the steps, and a chicken walked by and dropped an egg. And he ran out and got that egg and brought it in and had Elmer fry it for him. He wanted to taste a fresh egg.
Mom talked about growing up. Why don't you talk about you growing up in Chicago and how you ended up out in Warren? You had a tough childhood.
Very tough. We lived in Chicago, and there was a lot of Jews and Polacks and Italians and Germans, and we all lived together very happily sometimes. Anyhow,
What street is this now? What neighborhood?
is on Newland Avenue, 2605 Newland Avenue. And my dad, we bought a brand new house for $6,000.
Is it still there, do you think?
Mm-hmm. It is. It was.
Oh yeah.
Is it bad neighborhood now?
Yeah, kind of. But the house is worth a lot more than $6,000.
But they were all built alike. It was
Yeah.
a little bungalow, brick, little narrow thing, you know, and they're sitting about a yard from each other in a row, all of them.
But it was brick and it was quite a house. My dad broke his leg and he worked for Hartsheffer and Marks. Had a good job there
As a tailor.
as a tailor, and he was one of the honchos. And they didn't have any insurance then for their workmen. So when he broke his leg, he couldn't afford to keep the house. They didn't pay him a nickel from his Hartsheffer Marks, so he lost the house. And anyhow, my mother and my dad separated, and I ended up going out to Warren, Illinois, and started in 7th grade and went through high school there. And that's where I met my darling wife.
Do you remember where you first met?
No, I don't.
Now, what was the house you lived at in Warren? What house? What was the address? Remember the address?
Oh, we didn't have an address. I lived with Mrs. Cowan and her daughter, and I was rented out to them.
What does that mean?
$4 a week, I think. My dad paid her, and that covered my laundry and my food and a bed to sleep in. And we didn't live very good.
I mean, you were almost like a foster kid.
Yeah, I was loaned out. And this lady I worked with, she worked out cleaning houses for people at $1 a day. Worked from 8 to 5 for $1.
Now, how old were you when you went out to Warren?
I was in 7th grade.
So you would have been Alex's and Anton's age, about 13.
Yeah.
Oh, they're 12. 12. They're in 8th grade now. So you were 12 years old, and how did they find this? Would you say her name was Miss Collinson?
Mrs. Cowan, yeah.
How did they find her? I mean, how did Warren? I mean, was there any association with Warren before this happened? Or?
There was Mrs. Cowan was a Larson girl from Argyle, and there was quite a few of those girls, and one of them worked in Chicago. And Jack's mother met, what was her name? Ida. Met Ida in Chicago, and Ida said about that they have a farm in Argyle and she has sisters and one in Warren. Well, Jack's mother started coming out there to visit these Larsons.
Okay. And so your mom, your father's name is Lawrence, your mother's name is? Ida. And your mom didn't particularly care to have you in her house.
No, she married another guy, and him and I couldn't get along. So I was farmed out to Warren, Illinois.
His uncle.
Yeah,
She married Lawrence's brother.
No. Uncle Andrew was married to Jack's father's sister.
Oh, okay.
So that was his uncle.
And this is before there were single dads that had kids at home. That didn't happen back then.
No, my dad, he roomed with his sister, and that's why I was sent out to Warren, Illinois to live at $4 a week. And I had a kind of a good childhood there. That's where I went into sales.
Tell us about the stuff you do with Freddie Pash and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Everything from world.
That hand cream,
From hand cream, which I got through the mail, and then I sold them, and I sold flowers. What are those flowers? Those orange flowers?
honeysuckle.
No, not honeysuckle. Those orange things that you,
Dry on a stick, and you're not supposed to sell them now.
yeah,
Peonies?
uh-huh.
They're on
Roses?
fences. And
Oh,
Bittersweet.
bittersweet. Bittersweet?
Yeah.
And I sold bittersweet door to door. I made horseradish, I dug it and ground it up, put it in jars, and sold that door to door for 10 cents a jar. When 15 cents I'd get if I put a little beet juice in it and colored it. Then I got 15 cents a jar.
How about bugs?
Bugs?
Bugs. Did you have some bugs in the horseradish?
No bugs.
I
in it.
imagine it was done very clean.
Very clean.
Tell me about the fish. Is it catfish and gas tanks or something like that?
What was that?
Catfish and gas tanks or something like that? You cut
Oh,
open.
that was, I used to paddle around with an old guy, Cooney Mills, and he would sink gas tanks out of cars in the water in the Pocatonic River, and then we'd go over and visit these. They were tied with a wire, and along the river, we'd raise them up, and there'd be catfish in them, big catfish. Catfish could swim in, but they couldn't back out. So we'd have these big catfish, and we'd sell them. And then we had a boat, or he had a boat. We used to get clam shells. We'd fill the whole boat up with clam shells. And a guy'd come around about once a year and buy them for making buttons.
What'd you do with the clams?
Oh,
Throw them away?
throw most of them away, but some of them we kept the fish with.
Oh.
And what else did we do?
Tell me about Freddie Pash.
Pretty patch.
He was your best friend during school, right?
Yeah, he went to school with me, and he learned a pharmacy trade working for the drugstore. He became a drugstore owner, and
What did you used to do with him? You used to get in trouble, didn't you?
not printable.
Not printable.
We don't talk about that. He did quite a few things.
He came from a very poor family,
And he's a multi-millionaire now.
but he did it himself, and he learned to be a pharmacist through the mail. He didn't even go to school. He took courses and read.
Well, I think that's about all for me. I think we'll turn it over to Grandma now.
No,
Okay, hang on a second. We'll take a break. Okay, we're back. Camp Ellis, Illinois. Before you went off to war, you used to hide things in the trunk.
Yeah, the company commander and I didn't get along good, and I could never get overnight passes to visit my darling wife, which she lived about 12 miles away.
So he would not give you a pass to visit your wife.
No,
Nice.
well, I think it was regular
it was because of my wife.
regulations that
But,
they weren't
anyhow,
supposed to be off camp.
I used to get in the trunk of the car with my sergeant driving, and he'd drive out, and I'd go visit my wife and stay overnight with her. And
Oh, then one time we went to Chicago, and one of the guys was from Chicago. And
and
we-
this is, you went to Chicago when he snuck out?
No.
Oh, okay,
no,
okay.
No, that was on a trip. And we were at camp, and this guy, his name was Mutter. And he lived in Chicago, and he wanted to go along with us, and we had an old Plymouth coupe. So we put him in the trunk too.
And with another guy.
Another guy too?
Oh yeah, there was a third guy that rode up with us in a coupe.
Oh, that's
And
right.
two guys in the trunk
And the smell, from the old motor,
from the exhaust.
I don't know.
It's funny we didn't kill them both.
Kill them both.
So then you're off to war. How did you get to Europe? By ship, obviously, right?
Yeah, it took about 18 days. We went in the convoy and we had to travel at the slowest speed of the slowest boat. And
What ship were you on? Do you remember?
no, I don't remember which.
A troop ship or a?
Troop ship. And
Were you sick most of the time?
no, wasn't sick at all. But then we stayed a couple weeks in England, and we got our trucks and stuff there.
Where did you stay in England?
Don't remember.
Okay.
And we landed on 10 days after D-Day.
Okay, so you're getting into the war. I mean, towards the end.
Well, it still had a year or so.
Yeah, but it wasn't. You weren't. Okay, so it's, okay.
And when we landed, we went to Paris, and there was still Germans there.
What was your job in the? What was your job?
Driving a truck. I drove 28,000 miles throughout Germany and France.
28,000 miles.
28,000 miles. And
what kind of truck was it?
pardon?
What kind of truck?
A big 6x6 pulling a 1-ton trailer. 6x6 we'd put, it was a 2.5-ton truck rated. We'd put 15 to 20 tons on it. And a 1-ton trailer, we'd put 5 tons on that. And hauling stuff up to the front line. And one time I carried a whole load of black Negroes up and dropped them at Holland. And I stayed overnight in Holland, and they bombed, they completely destroyed the next block to us where I was sleeping. So I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Got some gasoline and got out of town. And then I was
But you didn't take the quickest route back. You took a little trip, didn't you?
yeah, I took a little trip. I wanted to see the front lines, so I went up to the front lines, and there I got past the front lines. And I got on a road along the woods, and I couldn't find a place to turn around. And I got beyond the front lines, but I finally got turned around and headed back. And by that time, we had killed a bunch of Germans along the way, and I had to run over a bunch of them in order to. They were quite dead, but I had to run over them.
Quite dead.
In order to get back. And so that ended my going up to the front lines. I went back to Paris to our hotel.
What hotel were you in Paris?
Don't remember the name of it.
So where'd you go from Paris?
Well, they were running short of troops, infantrymen during the Battle of the Bulge. And so they took all the screw-ups and got rid of them. And I was one of them. And I went into the infantry. And I took infantry training. It was ready to send to the front lines, and instead I got down to where was it? Well, I was down.
Were you in France?
It was in France. It was in the shipping place,
Marseille?
Marseille, France. And they were going to ship me out to go to the South Pacific. The war got over in France, but I found a job typing because I could type. So I stayed in Marseille and shipped other people to the Pacific. And that was a good time. We had our own hotel, and we had our own resort. German prisoners took care of the cooking and everything, and it was a good time.
So then, how did you get out of the war? How did you get out of the Army?
Well, I had to wait my turn. That's
Got discharged.
until my number come up, and I was able to be sent home. And that was the end of my Army experience.
So was the war still going on in the Pacific when you were discharged?
No,
Okay.
it ended there too.
So then you went home from Marseille?
Marseille, yeah.
So how did weren't you in Ireland for a little bit?
Well, I took a vacation trip to Ireland for, I think it was 2 weeks. I tried to go to Denmark, and my relatives there were afraid to have a soldier come, so I had to change my plans, and I turned Irish for a little while in order to get a.
So you told them that you were Irish?
I told them I was Irish.
Do you remember our trip to Denmark, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your trip to Ireland?
So then you come back home, and that's where you guys end up moving to Monroe then.
Yeah. It's been quite a life, and here's where I bow out. And take Isla May on a further
I'm
trip.
getting hungry. Are you getting hungry, Jay?
I think we're going to stop and eat then.
Huh?
Say goodbye.
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 Goodbye. Don't ever look at this again.
Our trip, the Sorensen family was in Cobb in 1948 and left in 1960. The population of Cobb back then was 299. It's grown a little bit. We're back in town with Jack and Ila to look at where they live. Okay, here's the site of what was the Nagel Sorensen hardware store, and apparently it was a hotel before Mom and Dad and the Nagel family made it into a hardware store. The first hardware store was an old wood structure that was where this gas station now is, that actually had on one side of it 2 giant 8x8 timbers propping it up because the building had a permanent lean to it. The building had a permanent lean to it because it got pushed over in a storm a little bit. This is the back of the hardware store, and actually Dad, Jack, built this building back here that was used kind of as a additional storage area and a workshop. We're looking north. Okay, Mom, we're on Elm Street in Cobb. Tell me about this house.
We built it ourselves and put in the basement, and we lived there for about 10 years.
Can you speak up a little bit too?
We lived there about 10 years, and it was a wonderful neighborhood. We had a lot of friends here, and Mark used to build a tree house right here in this tree, a big house up in the tree.
Was it addition on the front? No, that's new, huh?
that we just had a straight ranch home, and this addition has been put on.
Well, the tree that Mark probably built his tree house in is gone.
Well, it's probably this tree right
No,
here.
this tree's only about 15 years old.
Well, it was right there, and it was about like that tree.
Oh. Well, actually, there's a dent in the ground next to it, probably that's where the tree was.
Where?
Right to the north of it, to the right of it.
Oh, maybe.
And so where was the school? Oh, up there, huh?
Straight up the hill.
And the street did not have a name then?
No.
And right over there was where the hardware store, huh? Oh, was over there
Yeah.
on the main street?
Yeah. Where the gas station is now.
Here's Peace Lutheran Church, good old ELCA church where I was baptized. The front's been changed quite a bit. They added something to the front here that took away the steps that once were there. It's the downtown park with the mandatory tornado warning siren. And Main Street, Cobb, probably the truck with both, probably a bulk corn truck actually. And here's a local woman walking around. Cobb, Wisconsin. What do you want to say about the church, Mom?
Oh, it was a wonderful church. Enjoyed going to it. And you ask about the park. I used to teach Bible school, and I had one little boy, Johnny Neundorf, that would never stay in Bible school, and he would run out of the basement and run over, and I'd have to chase him down in this park. He would never stay in his class.
What was his name?
John Norndorf.
Norendorf.
He lives in Madison now.
Well, it's an absolutely gorgeous November day. The weather's about 60 today, and we are now in Illinois in Warren. Mom lived here from 1939 to 1946. She came back here during the war when Dad was overseas. But it is in the middle, again, there's one theme on this trip, it's corn. Corn is everywhere here. This is Meridian Park, where Merv used to play softball.